This video will be working through some of the exercises assigned in Chapter 15. We'll begin with the first one, and in fact we're going to be working on the first 5 in this chapter, so we're going to be going through all of them. I do want to make note to you, as I have in the past, that all the even numbered ones, so 15.2 and 15.4, both have solutions available at the publisher's website. And you can get to that website using the links found in the course shell. Okay, so let's work on this first one here. It says write a program that lets the user click the refresh button to display 4 cards from a deck of 52 cards as shown here. Notice it says see the hint in programming exercise 14.3 on how to obtain 4 random cards. So you can actually go back and look at that exercise that we worked on that has the code for picking random ones. And remember, basically the trick is that you shuffle the array containing the list of cards, and then you just pick the first 4 out of that array. Alright, let's jump over to Eclipse now so we can begin our work. Let's go ahead and create a new project. You can give it whatever name you want. I'm going to call it exercise with no spaces 15 dash or underscore 1. And it looks like this will be fine. And now that we have that going, let's go ahead and make a new class file. And let's name that exercise 15_1 as well. You can leave the package area blank. We're just going to go with the default. We will want a public static void main. Alright, so we have the basic shell of our program. The thing that we do want to do right off the bat, just so we don't forget, is we want to make sure that this extends application. And notice how that's underlining, so I'm giving control space, and we're going to pull from that library there. Now the other thing that we'll want to do is we do want to do the override right away. Let's just put that in so we don't forget. Space. We also know that we're going to need our public void stage, and let's get that stuff in there. Right. We also want to just notice here that this is not being recognized. So once again, we're going to do the control space thing. And actually, I'm thinking it might be easier to do it from here. And really what that one should be, if you don't remember this one, it should fix that little underline. And I can see what my problem is already. That should be start, not stage. Okay, now you see that they're fixed. Okay, so let's think about how we're going to structure it. And not a bad way to start is to think about what our interface might look like. And if we look at our text, it seems to me that we could probably get a horizontal box in here, an H box. And then we also have the button, and we need to place the button somewhere. So I think that what might work pretty well is to create the H box and then maybe create a border pane that will set up the parameters for how we're going to place this stuff. So we can have an H box and then just have the buttons sitting down here separately from that. So let's start by building the H box. I think that'll be a good place to start. I'm just going to create a little space here. So I'm just going to do new H box. I'll call it H. Okay, this is with a capital B. And then I'm just going to do all lowercase here. And then let's set a little bit of parameters here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the alignment and we'll do position, center it. And then we're going to set up spots. And what I'm going to begin doing here is I'm just going to kind of set up the framework here because as I do this, my head is telling me, hey, before you throw stuff into the H box, you kind of have to have it there to be able to throw it in, and that is true. So what I'm doing, and if you can actually kind of go back to what we were doing in chapter 14 with image views, and then I'm going to also call upon, let's put the cards in the card directory, and we're going to be pulling that in soon. And once again, what I'm doing here is I'm just copying the exact approach that we used in 14-3. And how do you like that? I have it sitting right here, so I can actually take a look at that, and you can see the approach that I used here. In fact, I could have kind of borrowed a little bit from this. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, but you can see that I do have a utility for shuffling stuff, so I don't see why we couldn't use that, so that will save us a little bit of work right there. So let's drop that in right here. And if just to remind you, what this does is it sets up an array, and it's an array list actually, and in that array we will have this structure, but we will be able to go through and with a loop go through all 52 positions, and then we read all that stuff in to the array, and then we use this shuffle utility that's built in to regular Java that's going to take this list that we have here and shuffle the order of it. And then when we come here to do our output, we are just very simply going to follow the approach that we had here, which is to get an item from the list from certain positions. In this case, we're going to get 4 different ones, so we can actually just kind of copy that approach. So here we'll do list.get, start with position 0, then we'll concatenate onto it the file name extension. So that will, in essence, go ahead and get the correct file name. Now, if you remember the way that the cards are named in this folder, they're named numerically. So we'll pull up card 1, card 2, card 3, or whatever happens to be in that position. So we'll actually pull back that part of the file name accordingly. Now, since we're talking about that, we are going to need to have this available in our project. So why don't we go ahead and pull that into this folder. In fact, I see that I've got that here, so why don't I copy it down here. And then you can see we have a copy there. Now I'm also noticing that I removed it from the other project, so if you want, you can come back here and just and paste it back so you have a copy there as well. Alright, so now that we have those available, we are going to need to do a little bit of copying here, because we're going to need 4 cards. So we'll just copy this four times and then change our values. Position 1, 2, and 3. So we got 4 different positions that we're working with. And hopefully this is making a little bit of sense. Now notice that we have these that are being underlined, so I'm actually going to do this to pull that import in up here. Okay, that is up there. You can see the array list automatically added itself as well. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. We have basically now we have our array list. We have our shuffling. From there we have our H box that's set into position. We have 4 spots that we're going to add that are image views. Those are going to be pulled from the files that we're getting from the list. And remember, what we're going to be pulling back is basically the file name for that. So here we'll be looking for numeric values that will drop in. That'll complete the file name, and then that'll grab it to put up on the screen. Now another thing that we're going to need is the button. So that needs to be up on the screen as well. So let's go ahead and do a button. Let's just call it refresh, because that's what it is going to do. In fact, you know, if you want to follow some proper conventions, you could do like BT refresh, so you know it's a button. And then of course that's going to be new button. It's text on the button. Refresh would be appropriate. And let's not forget to get our semicolon in there. Once again, we've got some libraries we need to pull in. Alright, now we got to pull from some of our event handling things that we just learned, and hopefully you saw the value of doing the shorthand approach, the modern Lambda approach for doing the event handlers. And that was basically where we do E dash right bracket, we begin our semicolon, or excuse me, our curly bracket. And then we need to, as soon as that button is clicked, we need to do the shuffle all over again. So the reason we have the shuffle here is that way, once the array is all in place, we can go ahead and shuffle that list before we do anything. So we come in with things already being shuffled, otherwise it would just be whatever the first 4 images are, so it'd be ace 1, 2, 3 of whatever suit is listed first. So that's what we can do. We can come up here, we can copy that, so every time we click that button we will initiate a shuffle. Now once that's complete, then really if you think about it, what we're going to need to do is reiterate all of this stuff in here, but then I'm also going to leave a spot because there's one other thing that we really should do beforehand, and that is to clear it. So the way that we can do that is we can do the H box. We do get children dot clear, and that does exactly what it sounds like it does. It sets it up so that we will clear the slate first before we go ahead and repopulate those spots. It's just considered a good practice. I'm noticing here I'm missing a semicolon. I'm also noticing that this isn't reading, and I'm not sure why that is, but we'll find out in a moment, especially if it doesn't work. Alright, so let's think about what we need to do next. I think we have most of the stuff in place already. We will want to set up some sort of a structure that's going to hold everything. And I had determined earlier, I think that probably a border pane is not a bad way to go here. Of course, you could probably use a couple different approaches, but this is the one that I'm choosing. So if you choose a different approach and it works for you, it works, and I'm okay with that. So here, let's take that pane, and we're going to set the center. And what's going to go in the center? We're going to put our H box in the center. And let's say at the bottom of that pane, we are going to drop in our button. Set alignment here. Put in my button, refresh. Do a little positioning here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a position top center, and that will force it to sit in the centermost top position of that particular area of the border pane. It might sound a little convoluted. You can play with it a little bit. I've kind of learned what to anticipate when I'm working with those things, and you'll get the same way if you've done it enough. All right, then finally, let's copy all of our standard stage and scene stuff. So that's going to be in essence identical. Drop that in. Of course, we want to change this to 15-1. And I'm kind of scrolling back through looking for underlines, and I am seeing one, and I think I know what's causing it. You know, when I was on the button before and I did my control space to get the library, it dropped in this library here, which is not actually the library we want to use for the button. We want to stick with the JavaFX libraries, and we will be using button, but instead we'll do scene.control button. And the reason we want to use that is because that's what we use to create controls in the JavaFX scene. And that may have been one of the options that popped up when I did the control space. And I just did it so quickly I didn't pay attention to it. But that will get some of these other underlines to go away, because this method here is designed to work with controls that are part of the JavaFX library as opposed to the regular Java button. So you can see all the underlines went away. Let's make sure that we got our launch down here. indent that a little bit. Once again, just checking for underlines and any problems. Looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and save, and then let's give it a spin, and hopefully it works. Yay, it got up on the screen. That's a big step. And then let's click refresh, and everything is working the way it should. So that's a little bit of work, but it's not really that difficult, and hopefully this helped to make sense of it all for you. Alright, so that's exercise 15-1. Now I'm going to actually guide you to a video so you can see the solution for 15-2. And just to reiterate, the author's solutions are on his website, so they're available in a couple of different ways. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump over to the resources page, and you can see that right here we have the textbook companion website, and you get to this place. So you can always get the source code for the examples in the book right here. You can also get the errata from right here. But if you want to see the stuff that I'm talking about, you do need to go to this link and take a look. Now notice that there's some of these things that you can jump to from here. So one thing would be the solutions. So let's click on that and see if it can go. And then it does bring you to that same registration screen, same one that you would get if you clicked here. Now the way that you get the code to register is to buy the book, the hard copy of the book, even though it's a soft cover, and then right inside that cover there is an access code underneath one of those silver strips you have to scratch off with a coin. Now once you have registered, then you can come in, and I registered here actually as a student, so you guys can see exactly what you would see. Alright, so you land on this page. Now if you want to look at the solutions, for example, you would just come here, click go, and then right here under 15 it would bring up all the stuff that you would need. So these are the checkpoint questions. This is for the exercise solutions, and you can actually download the compressed file to pull them down to your machine. And once you have those files, you'll find, they'll basically decompress in this fashion, and then you would just scroll to find the one that you're looking for. Alright, so that would be located here. Now just for sake of example, I'm going to actually pull up 15-2. I'm not going to type it in, but I'll bring it up on screen and talk my way through it. And let's look at the problem description first. I think that's pretty important. So this one says, rotate a rectangle. Write a program that rotates a rectangle 15 degrees right when the rotate button is clicked. So once again, you're going to have to create the interface, you're going to have to create the button, and let's go ahead and do that. Like I said, I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to open that code, and I'm actually going to do it in Notepad++, just so you can see what's going on. And at this point, you should have already completed this exercise. But if you take a real quick look, you can see all the libraries we have, how it's named. They also set up a variable here, it's a double, for angle, and they're presetting that to 0. And then you'll see below how they're going to work with that. Alright, so the first thing they do is they set up a stack pane in this case. I'm not sure why they chose that, but that works just fine. They set up a rectangle, and you can see they set up all the dimensions, fill in the stroke color, and then they, using get children add, to put that into the stack pane. Then they go ahead and they create a button. They're calling it button rotate, and it says button rotate set on action, once again our event handler, and then all we do is just say angle plus equals 15. So whatever the angle is set to right now, every time that you click the button, it will add 15 degrees and rotate it that much further. In addition, right here, we're taking that rectangle and then we're taking that set rotate method and we're pumping into it whatever the current value of angle is. So the first time through it's going to be 15 degrees, and then 30, and then it'll just keep going. Once again, we're going to set up a border pane, and inside that border pane we're going to place all the other items similar to what we just did in the previous exercise. So we'll throw in that stack pane, and then we're going to throw in the button rotate. So one's going to be in the center, one's going to be at the bottom. And then the same thing we did in the previous example is we're going to take that button rotate and position it top center relative to the location where it sits within the pane. We set up our scene, show the stage, and then we run the program. So that's 15-2 in its entirety. Once again, I think that at this point you should have completed it already, but if you want to see how the author chose to do this solution, this is how. Alright, this video will wrap here, and I'll pick up with the subsequent exercises in the next video.